Us, abandon ship. We're not caring about this car. We're thinking about the next year.
Exit clauses, yada yada yada.
Hulkenberg is the blue shell right now. Angle grinder guy, he gets a raise.
There you go.
Whoa.
He gets both salaries.
There you go.
What are they doing with the 5th and 6th seats?
Yeah, it's just Weenie Hut Formula One Junior now.
They don't fire up the same way that F1 cars do.
Formula One fans, welcome to the Tired Boys podcast. I'm your host, Justin.
And I'm Aaron. Welcome back, everyone. We've got the Qatar Grand Prix recap here this week. We've got some Formula 2 coming down to the wire in that championship with the last race in Abu Dhabi next week as well. But a lot of exciting stuff to get into for this week, Justin. It is good to see you.
Good to see you too, sir. The listeners really need to know that you were trying to shill me Max Verstappen stocks in the green room before the pod. I mean, I'm wavering, but I don't appreciate any backroom deals. You know, you're pushing really hard for this guy, and I've got to resist just a little bit here. So the listeners just need to know
That's not how I recall that conversation going down. I think I was kind of trying to really temper my excitement there, more than anything. We've got a lot to talk about this week with the Qatar Grand Prix and all the goings on in the Drivers' Championship here coming down to the end of the F1 season. One race weekend left after Qatar, so let's jump right into the episode. We'll start going through the quick hitters first. And so first one I've got here for you is that James Vowles is making a return to competitive racing. I didn't know he was like how high up in competitive racing he had been. I still am not sure, but he's going to be driving GT3 with the Gulf 12 hour at the Gulf 12 hours in Abu Dhabi. So he'll be getting to get behind the wheel. I think it'll be cool to keep an eye, see how he does. I have a feeling it'll be with the GT3 field, the teams will be like 3 teams with a professional, semi-pro, and like more of an amateur driver. That seems to be usually the makeup. So I'm sure he'll probably be in that like semi-pro or amateur entry level for the team. But kind of a cool thing to see. Like I've noted before with some of the different motorsports, but seeing some of these F1 people delving into other areas of the motorsports world.
Wait, so this isn't like a show weekend or anything? That's like normally how the rounds go, you're saying?
I believe that's a lot of times how the team makeup for these endurance races are at like the GT3 level, not in like hypercar and some of the like or like the WEC. I think those are all like full professional driver teams, but I think in a lot or a number of the GT3 like endurance races I've seen, they have kind of this breakdown of only like one professional-ish driver on the team. So I'll have to look into it a little bit more, but I believe that's kind of the breakdown for that.
Okay, gotcha. Well, yeah, that'll be really exciting, and that's next week. You said at Abu Dhabi.
So that will be December 14th. So I'll bring back some more information for it this coming week after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix to fill y'all in what he and his team makeup look like for that 12 hours of Abu Dhabi.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, sorry, I just assumed it being in the same at the same location. I would have figured it was in the same weekend. My apologies.
No, that would make sense. I think just because it's an endurance race, the amount of time they pushed it off to the following weekend. So he'll be hanging out for an extra week there in Abu Dhabi with the end of season testing and all of that that goes on before his GT3 return to racing.
Very cool.
So one of the other quick hitters, and this was just more, it kind of brought up conversations that we've had before, but with McLaren's disqualification, we talked about it. It was super small fraction of a millimeter for the skid plate wear for the McLaren cars in Las Vegas over the limit. So Zach Brown and Andreas Stella both came out um, saying that they would like there to be a rule change. It was kind of ridiculous for them to be disqualified for such a minute infraction of the rules and everything. But um, then George Russell was asked about it this past week, and he kind of went the other way and was like, "Hey, I think it should be zero tolerance." Sometimes the penalty doesn't match the offense. I was underweight 2 years ago and got disqualified. I think it was at the Hungaroring, or it was somewhere in the European season where he got disqualified for being underweight, and it was just a tiny amount of weight, and it's like that's that's the way it goes with the rules. But George also kind of brought this back around to um, how with Formula One, we're watching a multi-billion-dollar sport, and with these decisions, these rules decisions, and stewarding and everything, he used this as kind of a moment to push for full-time paid stewards that would travel around with the grid to make these decisions, having basically professional referees for Formula One instead of um, just volunteers from week to week. So giving hopefully some more consistency to the rules infractions. It allows things to maybe then yeah, you can adjust some of these rules if you have professional stewards that are monitoring things and can monitor and make more finite decisions versus when you have volunteer stewards that change week to week.
I kind of agreed with George about the like full-time stewards. That seems like long overdue. Especially to your points that you've made in the past about like wishing, race to race and infraction to infraction, like things were, judged pretty similarly and, with similar consequences as well. And I think having the full-time stewards helps like achieve achieve that type of consistency over the long term. So in that, I agree. As far as the plankware for rules in general, zero tolerance makes sense to me.
Yeah.
When it's things that are occurring, you know, we only know the McLaren side of it, but based on their reports, it's the lack of running of a particular tire on a long run that caused them to like not know whatever. They figure it out later in the race and blah blah blah. Okay. If that's the case where it's things where like the teams just did not have enough like practice time to get that data, like the data is available to them, but the running is limited for more racing, that's that's a little bit of a gray area to me where it feels like there's maybe some type of compromise available for like things that are like rule infractions that are happening on like a new format or like a rule change or something like this, like that seems reasonable for there to be leniency because some of like I because I feel like
Well,
some of the changes that they make are like
well,
what's the word? It's like they just kind of come out of
they're
not
like
for the
unanticipated like consequences of the design and like upgrade. Well, I mean that's kind of how this all started like a few years ago when we went to the ground effect cars. The porpoising and everything was an unintended side effect of the new ground effect, like pull the underside of the cars pulling themselves down, and so that porpoising became an issue, and they had to start regulating like your ride height on the car and your amount of g forces up and down. And the skid plate was also kind of a component of that safety kind of push. But I would agree, if there's like limited data available and everything, maybe a little more leniency would be like a reasonable perspective. I just I think for me the reason that some of these zero tolerance things make sense in those instances is it's like, well, how lenient do you start getting, and where does that like goalpost move to? And that's just where I find it difficult in terms of changing some of these things. Like the porpoising issue was not that long ago, and drivers were talking about pain in their backs and like all of this other stuff from their spine being compressed bouncing along the circuit and all. Like if this was some sort of ancient rule that doesn't really seem to affect anything during the weekend, but then it just randomly crops up this one time and they get disqualified, that sounds like a rule that would need to be changed. But this is something relatively recent in the grand scheme of things. I think that where the skid plates really come into play a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, fair. Like, I'm not saying,
Yeah.
whatever. I just, and every team has like that handicap, and every other team seemed to not, drive their skid plate down. So whatever. Maybe McLaren was cheating, but like, like, do you get what I'm saying though? Where it's like, if because of FIA like format changes, they're yeah, I don't know, man. Whatever, that's fine. We can just move on.
Yeah. No, I do get what you mean though with it. I think it's I, yeah, this is why I'm glad I'm not one of the stewards making the decisions on these things. It's not an easy spot to be in. But uh to move over to the do you work here segment, we had some news and shifts and things that have happened around the F1, F2, F3 grids. We had Leo Fornaroli, who moved up from F3 to F2 as the champion last year. We'll talk more about it in a bit, but wins the Formula 2 championship, and there are reports that now he's signed with an F1 team as a reserve driver. It hasn't been leaked where that would be to. Some of the most likely guesses were McLaren and Audi, um, being that Audi still has not announced a reserve driver for the team. Uh, Formula 3 and then Formula 2 champion coming on as a reserve to kind of uh, train under Hulkenberg and Bortoletto would be a good time to grow and potentially position yourself for a seat down the line. And then for McLaren, they dropped Alex Dunn from their junior program, so they may be looking for a young driver to come on into the team and start to grow in that reserve driver role as well. But not officially announced where that would be. Still some rumors out and about there.
I've got nothing, man. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. So yeah, with Fornaroli, I was kind of curious, so that's why I was digging a little bit more into like what he was gonna do after winning the F2 championship here. I was looking to see like where is there, like, there's no spots in the F1 grid available at the moment. So like what does this look like? And especially not being part of any junior program, I was like, that's interesting. So I'm curious to see where that ends up being. Um, Along with that, we had the announcement that Tasanopol Intrapuvizak was going to make his F2 debut with Trident this coming week in Abu Dhabi. We've seen a number of these other F3 drivers jump up to the F2 grid here in Qatar, and then for the Abu Dhabi end of the season race here, especially with the championship being tied up. So we'll get to talk about some of those drivers a little bit more, but some of the F1 rumors and conversations out here with some driver conversations. There's some reports that Charles Leclerc has started having conversations with Aston Martin for 2027 potentially. Um, Sounds like wherever or whatever Leclerc's decision that he's going to make for that team will probably be a few races into next year to kind of see how these new regulations are shaking out a little bit, which I imagine for most of the drivers who have contracts coming up next year would most likely be doing similar decision making with those. Um,
Hmm.
but it's kind of a crazy idea to imagine Leclerc being out of Ferrari. But he and Lewis obviously have not been having the best end of the season here.
Yeah, I can imagine like at the start of the yeah, I don't know. Ferrari right now is like doing pretty bad. So yeah, I'm not surprised that he's like looking around and feeling like they may not be the best option. But like Aston Martin, it's like okay, wouldn't Ferrari like likely be better than Aston Martin? But
Yeah,
if they have if they have uh, the Adrian Newey signing, maybe that's
yeah,
enticing. I don't know, but then is the Aston Martin team like a one car team? Because it's like Aston Martin and Lance Stroll are just like that's you know
yeah,
they're locked up together. Is Fernando Alonso leaving Aston Martin? These are questions. If I'm Leclerc, Ferrari likely doesn't look great, but I don't know that Aston Martin looks any better. Like going into new
yeah,
regulations, fine. But dude, I'll be honest, like new regulations is like kind of an illusion in the sense
yeah,
of there can be, what would you say, like out of position teams that could start ahead of the pack. They may have an advantage. Remember, like Aston Martin start of this year and last, where Fernando Alonso's on the podium, but it's inevitably it feels like the teams that have more manpower, more money, and I understand there's a cost cap, but like
yeah.
you
I
get what I'm saying? So I'm not so like, oh, it's like all up in the air. I bet Haas is going to be number one next year. Like that's just, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like it may happen, but I feel like you'd be crazy if that's where you're putting your money. And like Aston Martin just looks like one of those teams. Their car just looks. I mean, with Lance Stroll driving it, it is just a back marker. You,
yeah.
you find that word in the dictionary, there's a picture of Lance Stroll's Aston Martin right there. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't know that's any better than the Ferrari. Maybe Fred Vasseur has just been like smoking too many cigars, drinking too much wine on the Italian Riviera or whatever. But it's like something likely has to give. But I'm not sure I'd give up that seat. That's how I feel.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty reasonable. It's hard to imagine, especially just like and maybe that this is part of that conversation as well, but like a non-factory team especially jumping up. uh Aston Martin will be partnering with Honda for their engine power, so maybe since they won't be a Mercedes power, he's hoping that there's some sort of newy Honda magic that he can get involved with there. But again, like you said, it's especially these teams like Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, who have the personnel in place and the large scale productions and everything that really seem to be uh, maybe more financed outfits than like a Haas or some of the other smaller teams at Williams, then yeah, I think Ferrari might be a better spot to stay. Um, and like I said too, it's just hard to imagine Leclerc not being in that Ferrari red at this point in his career. Obviously, he raced I think for Sauber coming up through, um, but yeah, him not in a bright red jumpsuit every week would be a funky sight.
I'm less that, it is just like, is there a better chance of winning for him? Like I struggle with the like driver team identity thing. Dude, there's so many roster shakeups like all the
Oh,
time, just
100%.
everywhere. I think if
Yeah.
you get like fixated on something like that, I think you've really missed the boat and the sport probably isn't for you.
Well, yeah, and I can understand that. It's not as much like a deciding factor, just like a like picture. It was hard to imagine Lewis Hamilton not being in a Mercedes outfit up until a year ago. And so I think it's one of those things that a driver who's been there so long, it's just um it's hard to imagine them moving on, even if it were potentially for a better opportunity when they've just been there for so long. But hey,
Mhm.
like if you're one of these drivers out there, I'm sure they're not thinking about what my overalls are gonna look like week to week, and what
Right.
they care about winning and going to
Right.
the most competitive place there. So yeah, definitely. I would imagine that that's going to be the deciding factor. And I don't know if 5 races or so into next season will be enough to try and say all of this Ferrari history is not worth it to jump ship to someone like Aston Martin. So yeah,
You know,
that
because then the flip side of that is like, bro, Frank, you just left me 5 races into a season.
yeah
You know what I mean? Like that's like, oh man, come on, man.
yeah
So yeah, the that's a little hurt on like the driver's side. You likely want to start with the team, you likely want to test with the team. So maybe I'm just like of that opinion. I think you'll ride
mhm,
out the season and give your employees like a full season.
yeah.
But whatever. This is the high paced world of Formula One. There's no room for feelings here, and I have way too many feelings to like make decisions like that.
Yeah, it's easy to speculate on the outside here from my comfy desk chair.
Guest chair experts over here. All right,
Absolutely.
let me circle back because I feel awful. I left you hanging, and I'll tell you why. When you were talking about Leo Fornaroli signing to a Formula One team, being a reserve driver, oh, isn't it exciting? The whole time you were talking, my brain was just going into a death spiral of just picturing all the weekends where Drugovich is just standing with his sunglasses on, just staring at the monitor year after year after year. I'm Drugovich, the reserve driver, and he died there. Right? So like dude, that's
That
why I had nothing. It's like there's literally nothing to say. We've talked
no,
already
it's
about getting a spot like right now. Like,
yeah.
bro, you're in the worst time ever. The window is not open. So my brain was just death spiraling, and I'm so sorry that I left you
No,
hanging. It's like, I have nothing because like that is not hopeful.
it's all good. I was thinking and of course it depends on the team, but a team like Audi where Hulkenberg, I was trying to think on the positive side of like, where are these teams that might
Of
need a
course.
guy in a in a year or two?
Bro, we're
Yeah,
7 years in. There's no
but
silver line. We've seen too much.
well, and especially like you said with Drogovic, like at the time I was like it was like Lance Stroll and Sebastian Vettel, and it's like, well, Vettel's gonna retire. There's gonna be a seat open for Drogovic, Fernando Alonso,
He's like,
next
yo,
old
yo, put me in, coach.
well, the next oldest or one of the other oldest drivers on the grid, currently the oldest driver on the grid. They're like, yep, him, not Drogovic. So yeah,
Can
I
you
guess
imagine
that could
getting
happen if
passed up for a
Hulkenberg's
40
like,
year old?
oh, Hulkenberg's like, all right, guys, I'm gonna retire now, and they're like, Fernando Alonso.
He's like, I'm back, baby.
Fernando just hops over from Aston Martin to kicks out or Audi.
Fernando Alonso, the eater of rookie dreams.
Just blocking up any reserve drive opportunities to
So
get the full
awful.
drive. But no, I mean it's that's fair. I was wondering where your mind was going there, but that makes sense because we've talked about that, and it is pain for for Drogovic until now going to Andretti over in Formula E, which is I'm sure what he was going for the whole time.
His soul has been released, man. He's free.
Into the ether of Formula E. Um, but yeah, those are kind of the conversations going on. There's still, of course, all these rumors. Nothing's been announced with Red Bull. We could talk about that till we're blue in the face, but we've talked circles around that one already. We just have to kind of wait and see how that shakes out. Especially with a pretty competitive Qatar weekend between Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda as they're seemingly dueling it out for this last spot. Um, so definitely some conversations to get into a little bit further. I know you had a couple of things for around the water cooler though. Um, so why don't we hop over there for a drink?
Yeah, some of the community members obviously are just hilarious. One of my favorite memes that I saw for the weekend was the podium meme where it's like the third place guy just like dumping the champagne on his head, like he's happy for the P3, and P1 and 2 are just looking at him like, wait, what the heck? And that's Carlos Sainz. I was just really laughing because he is like so stoked on what some of the other drivers, they'd be in the post race being like, oh, like not good enough, like we suck, I hate myself, like all that. Carlos Sainz, it's just like, yeah, baby. So that was really fun to see. And then the other one that just like next level made me crack up was a short animated video of a group of cultists summoning a demon, and the idea was that was them praying for the demon against Lando Norris, and it seems like their black magic came true because yeah, he got hit with a pretty tough day on Sunday, where the Lando Norris haters were Professor Quirrell at the Quidditch match. I was actually Professor Snape trying to counter curse. I was muttering under my breath, trying to save Lando Norris out there on the broom. So it was a black magic battle, but yeah, those occultists seem to win.
Yeah, that's there was a lot of good ones. The Carlos Sainz one though is hilarious because I just he like these podium finishes he's gotten this year. He's had his ups and downs with Williams this season, but he is like giddy on the radio. He's like singing smooth operator. He's like getting into it, just so excited and it's just great energy. I love to see it. So that's yeah, pretty fitting one with the dumping the champagne for the P3. He's like
Hmm. It's
that
very
is
funny.
that is winning to him at this point with Williams. They're not quite there to compete for the wins yet, but a couple of podiums on the season for Carlos. Um But yeah, some lots of black magic going on this weekend. We'll get to it, but before we do, we just want to remind you, if you are here listening, watching along on YouTube, don't forget to check us out, subscribe, like, share with your friends. Join us in the Discord through our link tree. Join in on the conversation, the memes, the fun of the F1 weekends. We really appreciate you guys for spending your time with us.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for enjoying the episode, and back to the show.
Alrighty. So we had the feeder series section here with the Formula 2 grid. We had the second to last race weekend of the season with sprint race and feature race. As usual, we did have some new faces onto the grid. Nicholas Solov, James Wharton, Lawrence Van Hoopen, Tasana Polin Trapuvazak, Martinius Stenchorn, all coming onto the grid here in the Qatar weekend to um, bump up from F3 to their teams that they've signed with for the upcoming F2 season and kind of get their legs under themselves in the Formula 2 car a little bit. Um, and overall, Nicholas Solov looked pretty good. The Red Bull Junior, he was kind of the standout for me of those drivers who hopped up here, and he looked like he was um, pretty comfortable from the get go. A couple of minor mistakes through the weekend, but it's kind of neat seeing these F3 drivers come up to the grid here at the end of the year, especially with constructors battles kind of being primarily wrapped up. So some good opportunities to get some testing in.
Yeah, it's crazy that they're just like, right out of one car right into the next. These teams really don't waste any opportunity to get on track experience and get these racers behind the wheel of, the car that they'll be racing in the future. Just getting that experience in. So that's kind of crazy, kind of surprising to me. But yeah, I'm sure the drivers really appreciate it, just like, oh, out of that rust bucket, into the faster car. But yeah, I was really impressed with Verschoor's race. I think he's really controlled. I think he can be aggressive when he has to. But yeah, overall, I really just like watching him race. He's a solid competitor in my opinion.
Yeah, and he's had, I mean, he's tied for P2 in the championship here at the end of the Qatar weekend. He's looked really good throughout the year. He's gotten multiple, I think he's had four different wins, three sprint races, one feature race, if I've got that correct here. He tied the record for most wins all time in Formula 2 with the sprint win, or was it the sprint or the feature that he won?
He
It
won the
was
sprint.
sprint. Yeah. So with the sprint win tying that Formula 2 record of most wins all time. Um, so really really strong competitor and a really solid weekend from Versure. He did look really comfortable out front.
Big time agree. Yeah, and then the feature race I thought was pretty exciting. With the ability to or the what would you say, the possibility to win for Leo Fornaroli on pole position for the start of the race. Loses out pretty quickly though, and then from there he's just trying to get back. I think Victor Martin just drove a really good race, even with the like confusing safety car period. We're
Mhm.
wondering where is everybody? Can I go? Like these type of scenarios. But yeah, it was actually a solid feature race. There was a lot of battles through the grid, and I think even near the top as well. So I thought the what am I saying? The feature race I think was a quality one.
Yeah, it was a fun F2 weekend. Like there was a lot of good battles on track. Victor Martins looked good out front. I think my biggest surprise from the weekend was that Jack Crawford was just seemed to be struggling. He finishes down in P8 in the sprint race, then P11. He was second in the championship, the closest contender to Fornaroli before the weekend started. Um, so a pretty rough weekend, only picking up 1 point in the sprint race. But it seems like that's just sometimes how these races shake out. It's like we talked about with Dorian Pan in the F1 Academy Championship, that consistency of scoring points every single race and everything that comes in um, to play massively. Fornaroli only had a couple of races that he missed out on points, and Crawford had a few more throughout the season, and that consistency can really clinch things at the end of the year, which it did for Fornaroli. And he looked pretty racy throughout the weekend too, going side by side with his teammate at a couple of points. I think in the sprint race, um, probably would have been covering my eyes if I was any of his family or friends who are probably there to watch him and everything. Just seeing them so close together on track, that would be a rough way for things to go. But fortunately for him, a solid weekend and F2 championship right after his F3 championship.
Which is like really exciting. A couple of like back-to-back winners now, you know, with Bortoleto doing a similar thing. I'm pretty sure, you know, this was, you know, back a ways, but I'm pretty sure Piastri did the same thing, won his Formula
I
3
think
year, won
so.
his Formula 2 year. So yeah, couple of really solid drivers coming up through, able to, you know, able to take as many trophies home as possible. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and two races left here at the end of the season, so we'll get to see some of these younger drivers in those F2 seats again, getting prepared for next year. So we'll kind of start to put together a little idea of what that grid might look like for next season. But still, I'm sure a number of drivers that are going to shift around that aren't getting that opportunity to jump up right away this year. So we'll look forward to having the F2 grid all together, but one race weekend left for the 2025 season there. But now getting over to the F1 portion of the episode, we've got the hot seat here for the Qatar Grand Prix first, before we get into the rest of the race.
All right, for those of you listening at home, we've got 5 questions, 3 multiple choice answers each. We're going to put Aaron in the hot seat and see how many questions he can get right, see how well he knows the Qatar Grand Prix. Aaron, how confident are you going into this one?
Uh, 75% confidence.
Okay, all right, very cool. After this hot seat, I'm going to hit you with the longest rabbit hole ever.
All right.
Ever. But I promise you, like, there's a reason for it. So, are you ready for the hot seat, Aaron?
Yep, let's rock and roll.
All right, here we go. Question number one. The Qatar Grand Prix has been contracted with Formula One since the 2021 season, but has only run 4 out of the 5 years. Which international sporting event was held in Qatar 2022 that prevented the race? Was it A, the Olympics? Was it B, the FIFA World Cup? Or was it C, the League of Legends World Championship?
That would be B, the FIFA World Cup.
That is correct, sir. You've nailed it. You sure know your international events. Question number two. Losail International Circuit is one where we have sprint races during the season. Despite Max's dominance here in the last 3 years of the Sunday race, this driver has won 3 of the last 3 sprints here in Qatar. Is it A, George Russell? Is it B, Lando Norris? Or is it C, Oscar Piastri?
I believe that would be C, Oscar Piastri.
You are correct, sir. To the McLaren driver, he's excelling in the sprint races. Question number three. A high speed, full commitment racetrack that requires full focus ends on a DRS zone straightaway for overtaking. How long is the pit straight at the Losail circuit? Is it A, 1 kilometer? Is it B, 850 meters? Or is it C, 700 meters?
I will go with B, 800 meters.
That's a good
Or
guess, but
850
at
meters.
at Qatar, we have a 1 kilometer straight from the final turn down to turn one. That was a good guess, though. That was a good guess. Now, question number 4. We are able to go night racing in Qatar courtesy of a company from the United States called Musco Lighting. On which circuit was the first night race held? I'll give you bonus points if you can give me the year and the winner. Question A or answer A is Bahrain International, B is Las Vegas, or C Singapore.
That is, I believe, C, Singapore. And I'm
2 bonus points up for grabs.
gonna go with 2008.
Okay, and who won the race?
Lewis Hamilton.
Oh, bro, it's close.
Uh,
Fernando Alonso.
I was between the two of them.
Bro,
Brutal.
2 for 3. That's really good. That's really good. Yeah. All right. Singapore '08 was the first night race that we had in Formula One. Very good, sir. Very good. All right. Question number 5. Here's your max fact for you. Breaking records of old and setting them in the modern era, Max has won each race here except the first running in 2021. Which driver won the inaugural Qatar Grand Prix? Was it A, Fernando Alonso, B, Lewis Hamilton, or C, Sergio Perez?
B, Lewis Hamilton.
You are correct, sir. Damn. 4 for 5 plus 1. So you've got 5 points, sir. What does
I'll
that
take
mean?
it. I will take a 5 out of 5 with an asterisk there. You can throw that on. But yeah, not too shabby this time. I was debating the 1 kilometer too. I was like, I don't know if it's that long. That's a long pitch straight for a race circuit. So um but with Qatar, it's I think they need to extend the DRS zone on it a little bit. But I mean, long straightaway and some great slipstreams that we saw up to turn one.
All right, so here's the rabbit hole, and I've got to take you along because it was worth learning about.
Okay.
All right, so you're like, WTF is Musco Lighting? All right, so right, Musco Lighting is a United States lighting company. They've done like a whole bunch of like stadiums and
Yeah, I was
like
gonna say, I would imagine they do football fields and stuff like
right.
that. And yeah,
Right. They have contracts like all over the world, some of like the biggest venues that you can be at, like they've done the lighting for. So, when I was reading about Qatar, the one thing that really interests me is like the element of the night races and like how do they make them happen. So this Musco Lighting Company did Qatar, and then they did the Yas Marina circuit, which is the Abu Dhabi circuit, which
okay,
we're able to go night racing there, so that's cool. Yas Marina circuit, I believe, has like the most lights for any international like night race. So it's like the you get it.
yeah.
So Musco Lighting also did the lighting for the Wimbledon Center Court. Why does
Oh,
this matter?
hmm.
Above the gates to walk into center court, if anybody's been there, they know there's an inscription above the gate that's from a poem. It's from a Rudyard Kipling poem called If. The line is, let me see if I can pull this up really quickly. It's if you I'm just gonna pause here and just get it because I'm just gonna butcher it. So the line that's above says, "If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same." I was like, "Damn, okay, that's like pretty cool." All right, cool. That's like that's above Wimbledon. Okay, like winners, losers. If you can, all right, cool. And then it hit me like a bag of bricks. A few days earlier, I was listening to an interview that Sebastian Vettel did with F1 TV. Wonderful interview, like in just an insane conversation. But in it, Sebastian Vettel was asked about like when is like a driver at your peak? Like Seb, like when were you at your peak? And he said like, oh, after I won the first one, it was probably the year after I was like peak form. And then he was like kind of thinking about some other racers. He was like, but imagine. Then he started talking about Lewis Hamilton, and then very like a different angle. He talked about Abu Dhabi 2021 and the reaction from Lewis Hamilton in that moment at the end of that race, like when all the cameras, everybody's still there, like, bro, like he saw us to get out of the car, right? Go back and watch the very end of that race and just watch what Lewis Hamilton does. It's it is the embodiment, truly, it is the embodiment of the opening of that, or the line of that Rudyard Kipling poem. He has a moment where he's like, he's in his helmet. He goes back to the garage. He talks to his trainer. There's the moment where like his dad's got his arm around. Like everybody knows this. Everybody knows where his dad's talking to him, and Lewis is like, like being consoled in that moment. The very next thing he does, he walks straight out from that garage, walks straight to Max, hand out, shakes his hand, they hug, and then he just like walks right off and then just like does the interview. And then guess what he says in the interview? He's just like, "Damn, thanks everybody for coming. That was a tough race. Man, we really pushed hard. Man, we're gonna come back and get him next year." And he was just like, "Yeah, thanks everybody," and he just walked right off.
Yeah.
And that's what like really like that's what Seb was talking about. And Seb's reaction to this was like, whoa. Like how do
Yeah.
you have that composure? Like literally like a world ending event for everybody around you. And the one guy that was at the center of it was able to meet triumph or disaster and treat it just the same. And he was still able to like go and just be like as sportsmanlike as you possibly can in that moment, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, damn, okay. So Seb's answer wasn't like, it wasn't just about like when are you at like your best peak performance, but like as a
Gotcha.
competitor, your sports, like how sportsmanlike you are, it like that takes growth. You wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to do that on like your first or second season or whatever. So I thought that was really powerful, and it didn't fully land until I read that inscription. I was like, man, that's crazy. So then I
Yeah.
went back and I was like, wait, like what's Seb talking about? Like I don't remember, whatever. And I went back and watched, and it's like, my God, he does like the most gentlemanly thing possible that you could ever hope to do in that moment. I'm like, damn, okay, that is truly being a competitor. And
Yeah.
why do I bring this up? Because I found it interesting in all of these things, but I have a feeling this has been this kind of season. This will loop us all the way back to what we were talking about at the beginning and get us right back into Formula One. That's what I'm worried that we're about to have in Abu Dhabi is just some Armageddon, right? That is just like going to end this season in. I'm thinking possibly an even bigger bang than that was.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. And so I think part of it, and maybe a big part of Lewis's grace in that moment and everything, and just the way he carried himself. Um, Going through the loss to Nico Rosberg in 2016, I don't. I'm sure he still was very gentlemanly then. I imagine that the reaction was a little bit different in that time versus that moment with Max and everything. Even with the circumstances and all, like it's pretty incredible. Um, I I think that it just like shows a lot of growth as a person. I think like, and not to make it all about Max, but it almost feels like he is starting to, and maybe it's from seeing Lewis, maybe it's from just growth in life and whatnot, but he has, I feel like, taken a relatively similar attitude throughout the season as that from Lewis, where he's like coming at it from a competitor. He's like, I will try as hard as I can, but if we don't get there, we don't get there kind of thing. And that's how I feel like he's answered interview questions for the past few weeks about, oh, Max, you're still in it and all. And like, yeah, they're PR trained and all of that too. But I agree. I think a it's a recipe for potential disaster here coming into the end of the season. There's three people in a fight for the championship, two on the same team, a team that hasn't been the strongest in their decision making department over the season, and I think that creates a lot of at least potential for some chaos.
Very well could do, or it could just be, just a parade of, Lando Norris out front, and we all get what we deserve.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. We'll find out in just a few days' time. But to start getting into some of these conversations a little bit more, why don't you kick us off with one of your salacious headlines here for the week?
Yeah, but what's an Abu Dhabi finale without Michael Massey?
I I considered making a Michael Massey edit where it's like the Undertaker coming out of the coffin or whatever, and then it's just AI'd Michael Massey's face onto it, and it's just like he's back. One time and one time only for 2025 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
Yeah, then something bad's gonna happen. They're gonna just start dropping bombs on the circuit. All right,
Toto's gonna be in the ring. No, Michael, no. Just
bro. Getting to hear that again was like, all right, I could probably die happy now.
but yeah, that's yeah, without him, hopefully things go a little bit smoother here in the last race weekend without
It
some
just
Michael
feels so
Massey
empty
action.
without me, Michael Massey. All right, my first salacious headline is obviously, we got to go there. The McLarens hold up the McLarens in a championship charge. What feels like slam dunk strategy. I mean, like, bro,
It's
it's just all so silly. Can I just tell you my experience of the race?
yeah, oh, absolutely. I'm all
So
ears.
crashed, safety car. Okay, they're coming around. These people didn't pit. Everybody else pits. I was like, is that even good to pit? Like, I genuinely didn't know in the moment. And then Jolyon Palmer was reacting so hard that I was like, okay, I think there's room for I think there's room for like this still to work, right? I'm like doing the math and I'm like, okay, all right, two mandatory stops. They've already done one. Like carry the two. I was trying to figure it out, and then I just started getting angry because I'm bad at math. I was like, this has to work. I'm cranking the hopium. I've got two in the nose, like one up each nostril, and then the overmask, and I'm cranking it, right? I'm just cranking it. I'm like, that, like, what? There's no way. I mean, okay, they must know something I don't. They're going on to the softs. Wait, what do you mean they're going on to the hards? Oh, okay. All right, there's got to be something here, bro. I was so mad because I didn't realize, like, yeah, as long as they made it to lap 7, and it's like,
Yep.
oh, it was lap 7. Oh,
Yeah.
they just did the simple arithmetic. I was over there trying to do calculus, and bro, I had a bad time.
Well, and it's really interesting cuz this was the first time, and I kind of am curious if teams have this every single race weekend. I'm sure they have something similar, but hearing Red Bull and Hannah, their strategic director, talk about it after the race, she basically was like, lap 7 was our virtual safety and safety car window opened. Like any virtual safety car or safety car before lap 7, we're not pitting. But she talked about it being like a specific window. Like if we make it to this point, we can make it on one more stop guaranteed by just running the tires to the 25th lap kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, and McLaren, I assume because every other team pitted both of their drivers, that all the other teams had that as well. It's obviously tough for McLaren in a position of, and I think this is where it starts getting a little screwy with McLaren. They did the Lewis Hamilton Abu Dhabi 2021 where they're like, we don't know what people are going to do behind us. We don't want to give up track position to Max, like go into the
Right.
pits. He stays out, and then it finishes under safety car, and we lose it that way. Like they didn't want the to flub it by bringing Lewis into the pits there. I think the same thing happens with Oscar. They're like, we don't know if everyone's going to pit. Maybe some people will stay out. If some people at the back of the field stay out, then that could be some people that are in the way of moving up through the field, yada, yada, yada. I get that. But then when you see Max pit, I think Lando has to pit there. But then McLaren's in that weird position of, well, if we pit Lando and that's the better strategy and he ends up in front of Oscar, then we're favoring Lando and we have to be perfectly fair to both baby boys. And I feel like that makes it tough because that seemed to be the gist of what I could gather from their decision making was like, well, we weren't sure if everyone was going to pit, but then we didn't want to like pit one driver and not the other, and like so then we just prayed for another safety car basically the rest of the race to see if we can get our free pit stop too.
And I was doing the rain
Which could have
dance. I was trying to
happened.
pray with
Like,
them.
yeah, it 100% could have happened. Um, but yeah, hope unfortunately is not a valid strategy in the Formula One world. It sometimes pays off, but uh, can't bank on it too hard, and that's why my first headline here was it's not really like a newspaper headline. It's more of a tabloid like cover page that you'd see in the aisle at the grocery store.
That's what
And
salacious means.
but it's
Salacious means tabloid.
oh, I thought it was just like supposed to be just like exciting, like headline, like extra
No,
extra. Read all
salacious
about
means
it.
like
It's
you're
like,
kind of like lying.
oh, okay,
Salacious means
so
you're like spinning. You're like negatively spinning.
okay, gotcha.
So by tabloid, you're doing it, brother.
All right, so then I've got McLaren's Guide to Racing Strategy, and the picture next to it is a Magic 8 Ball that just
Yes.
says "Ask again later" in the middle. They're just um, the decision making, like we were talking about, and then like coming over the radio to Lando and just being like, "But they've lost all their flexibility." And it's like,
Yeah. I'd cope too on the radio.
yeah, it's like, brother, they don't need flexibility. They like did the
They're
they
just gonna
did the
win.
thing. Like they made it. And I will also say like it's extra brutal from the McLaren driver's side because they were flying all weekend. Oscar and Lando in qualifying looked extremely quick. Oscar obviously wins the sprint race. Just he was the two of them when with 7 lap older tires than the rest of the grid bolted at the end of that safety car and were 10 seconds ahead of Max by the time they took their first pit stop and everything. And I was like, obviously Max is not trying to kill his tires on the first lap out. He's bringing them into the window, yada, all that fun stuff. But like they were insanely fast. And then Oscar was I mean, they were quick enough that I was looking at the pit stops and being like, "Oh man, they got to watch out because Lando might end up like in P8 because there's all these cars close in a pack in the middle there after this pit stop, and they just put in some insane lap times, 1.8 second pit stop, get him back out there in P5, I think it was at the time, net P3. And it's like they really just were on it for every other portion of the weekend other than that one strategy call. So just a brutal way for that to end, especially Oscar has been like Qatar, he's been a specialist like we talked about on the hot seat. Like he's got the sprint race wins, he's always quick there. That's what everyone was talking about with him and Lando's battle. Like Oscar's been really good in Qatar, like maybe he can bring it back into contention here. Um so yeah, really tough way for his race to kind of uh, end with the P2 versus the win that he definitely should have had.
Yeah, I big time agree. Where it's like, yeah, okay, if you've just got like Neanderthal drivers and like you mess up a strategy call, well, you weren't gonna win anyway. But it's like, oh my god, they were so fast, and they just like, man, they literally just like they threw it, they threw it away, and it's like, all right, man, they just want to make it dramatic for us. They easily could have won. They just they just didn't want to.
Yeah, it's just uh it's crazy because all of these other like team fairness things throughout the season, like we were joking about it earlier in the year. I don't know if that 100% was a component of the not pitting Lando, but it wouldn't surprise me the way the season's gone that they were like, well, we didn't pit Oscar, so we can't pit Lando. Like, and
What do
just
we do?
put them both on the same strategy. It's it's like when Lewis would be begging to do just the opposite strategy of whoever he was up against, Botas or
Mm-hmm.
Max in like 2020, 2021, and they're just like, yeah, sure, Lewis, that sounds great. Hard tires get slapped on the car. He's like, what the hell? Like, it's yeah, it was just they looked so good all weekend. The 1.8 second pit stop was like the
Crazy.
cherry on top of like doing everything perfectly otherwise on the weekend. And that's why it does make me um kind of just I was saying it at the beginning of the episode. I feel like Lando is in a good position for this last race. He's obvious. Well, that's like a no-brainer statement. He's leading the championship. He's in a very fast car and everything. But I don't know. I feel like he should have it. Crazier things have happened. I'm just
Yeah,
trying not to
we're
get my hopes. I'm closing off the hopium tank over here
sure,
and
sure.
trying not to get myself riding too high.
I can appreciate that, but yeah, I mean, obviously, that's the number one thing you gotta talk about. I think for the race weekend, yeah, I feel like I feel like your joke was a little funnier though. You should have went first, and I could have followed up because yeah, your headline was way better. What's your second headline for the race weekend?
So my second headline is "Smooth Operator," and that is, of course, talking about Carlos Sainz. Just a super impressive Grand Prix and solid weekend overall. He looked pretty quick in the sprint qualifying and all too. He gets into Q3 for both qualifying sessions, finishes P8, picks up a point there in the sprint, and then of course the P3. But the crazy thing, and just not knowing this stat, but it had been 10 years since a Williams driver had gotten two podiums in a season. 2015 was the last time that They had 2 podiums in one year. And actually, both of their drivers had done that in 2015, and that was Valtteri Bottas and Felipe Massa. Um, so kind of wild that there's been this 10-year gap where Williams has kind of uh, taken time to rebuild and come back, but very impressive from Carlos to get that second podium and just had really good pace all weekend long.
Yeah, and the the sub headline for that is the egg on Ferrari's face. You know, how can this guy that we got rid of to a lesser car, how is he on more podiums than Lewis Hamilton? We got Lewis for him. I thought Lewis was better than him. He's got more points than Lewis. What?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Like I don't think anyone had that on their bingo card for this year, but that's definitely the Ferrari question. They're sitting over there, CEO John Elkin saying our drivers need to stop talking and drive, focus more on their driving than their talking or whatever however he phrased it. Um, yeah, and then Carlos is like, "Yep, I'm just gonna be over here enjoying my Williams and picking up podiums, and putting together a really solid first year with the Williams team."
Man, I couldn't even enjoy it while it was happening. They just kept playing his radio messages, which, he was just effectively like, "Hey, team, we're racing." And then he would come back on the radio and be like, "Yo, team, like, we're racing." 30 seconds later, "Team, we're still racing." It's like, oh, man. Man, just let me mourn the death of my team, please.
Stop taking the spotlight, Carlos.
Yes, just tell me how bad we're doing, please.
Oh man, yeah, that would definitely be, especially when Lando's the one trying to make his way through. He's on the radio. He's like, I don't think he's gonna be able to get through Kimmy. I think he's gonna be stuck behind, and like he's like just
So
having a chat
tilting.
while he's like he's
Bro, because that
going.
means he's watching TV.
Oh yeah,
You get
100%.
that, right? That means he knows like
Or at
what's going
least,
on.
yeah, and because I think at the time they would have been a little too far back to get him in the mirrors. But yeah, that's I mean, he was cruising out there,
Yeah.
and talking about Kimi Antonelli, like I was really impressed with his Grand Prix drive. Bummer of a mistake for both him and Max by him just pushing a little bit hard at the end of the race and giving up the position to Lando. But like, I mean, you're pushing all out. You're at the very end of what the tire life stint should be on these last couple laps of the race and everything. Like, and he's a rookie. Like, I'm not shocked um, that he slipped up for one moment. Lando was right there to take advantage of the opportunity and picks up a position there, helps himself out for next week. But really solid drive from Kimmy there as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I believe the FIA had to, go to bat for him. I think he was taking some flack on social media for like the mistake, people saying he like did it intentionally. So I think that sucks.
Yeah,
And I don't
and
think we need to be doing that to our drivers. They're
right.
there for our entertainment, so please be nice to them.
Yeah, it's so stupid that people we have to and other people have to like put out statements, like not that we have to, but like F1 and the FIA and teams, Red Bull and all these teams are like we stand with Kimmy, and it's like he's a rookie. One, I think part of it is a component a little bit of the broadcast where some of it like unintentionally pushed people's minds a certain way. For one, they've got Julian Palmer and David Coulthard talking and going back and forth like, well, well, McLaren is a Mercedes like
Right.
engine buyer, so like maybe Kimmy will play nice with them. And it's like, why is this conversation? They're not like they buy apart from Mercedes. They're not like organizations that are tied together. It's not V Carbon Red Bull. It's not like there's no reason that Kimmy would give up that position in my mind. And so them like tossing this idea out, and then of course GP coming over the radio probably didn't even see what had happened at that point. Just sees the timing thing where Kimmy drops below Lando and has a
Hmm.
weird like sector time, and he's like, "Oh, looks like Kimmy let him through or whatever." And it's like GP's paying attention to Max's race, and so from those two things on the broadcast, I feel like people just ran with it, and it was like,
Hmm.
why don't? It also took the broadcast way too long to show what actually happened. We're sitting there for like 2 minutes before they got to the replay of Kimmy like getting out of sorts coming through one of the turns, and it's like that should have been like, oh, Lando gets by Kimmy Antonelli, here we're gonna immediately go to the replay and see what happens. That's what I would do. But the F1 TV broadcast has been a little bit suspect here and there. So it it is what it is, but be nice online, people. It's not that hard.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But yeah, in my head canon, he did let him by, and was like, "Go get him."
Against his grid dad Max. Hard to believe.
That's I, dude. I can't. No, I. The joke was not funny the first time you said it. It's even worse now. Any grid dad, any grid mom, any mom dad jokes. Get
I
them out of
spend too
here.
much time on Twitter. I'll hold off on those. That's I see too many of these videos of like Max in the drivers parade just
Oh
chatting
yeah,
with
just
all
like
the
hugging each
rookies
other or
and like
whatever.
yeah, like all of that stuff. And I'm like I get caught up in the Twitter sphere sometimes,
Hey,
um
no worries.
but yeah, I mean, overall, solid weekend for Mercedes as well, especially in that um, battle with Red Bull and Ferrari in the constructors championship. They pick up some good points, extend their lead over Red Bull. Ferrari is now officially locked into the P4 in the championship, which is I've got the stat here if I can find it real quick, but that is the worst finishing position in the past 5 years since the 2020 season for Ferrari, finishing down in P4. I mean, so
Wait.
last of the top teams, but
Uh, don't tell me, dude. Is Red Bull P3?
Red Bull is P3.
So Max, full Max is just ahead of Ferrari.
I'll
Okay,
give you
all
the
right. He has like
official.
70 points or whatever. Fine. But
So
that's
Max
absurd.
has 300, no, Max has 396 points and Ferrari has 382.
So even just himself, yes, he does have just straight up more points than the
Yeah, Max
full
is just
Ferrari
beating
squad.
the full Ferrari team.
Bro, get him out of here. Can we just you just Formula Zero will be Max at least for a year, and we'll see if we can find some other competitors to throw in there. This is crazy.
I'll go watch him in GT racing. We can leave he can leave everyone alone. Stop picking on the Ferrari squad just by himself over there.
That's
Um
crazy. Just an
yeah.
adult just beating up a kid.
he is he has so Yuki has, I believe it's 30 points on the season. Yuki has 33 points on the season. Um
Damn. I
And I
guess.
think he picked up three of them with the V carb. So I believe he has 30 Red Bull points on the year.
Okay, gotcha.
So yeah.
That's so wild. Yeah, I was like, you said P4. I was like, wait. I'm looking at the other teams. I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense. Oh,
Yeah.
it's got to be.
Yep. It is
No.
that weird of a year. So um we still do have a few other constructors battles. Williams, I believe, has locked in P5 as well. I don't think that there's a way that even if Racing Bulls went 1-2, I don't think they can catch Williams. So locking in some of these standings. Mercedes hasn't quite run away from Red Bull yet, but it's still pretty unlikely for Red Bull to catch up here in the last race. They are uh, 33 points back. So it'd have to be a big, probably win from Max and a podium from Yuki to overtake Mercedes and Mercedes
Hmm.
double DNF or something like that. So it's mathematically possible, unlikely. Kick Sauber has 68, Haas has 73, and Aston Martin has 80 points. So there's still a little bit of potential there for some shifts, but uh, those are probably very close to tied in place without anything too kooky going on here in Abu Dhabi.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense to me. And then, we factor that against like, okay, the like prize money gives them a kickstart, and then also like wind tunnel time. That's like, as a fan, like those are just the things that I equate to like higher positions. Is like, okay, it just will help set them up better like for next year. Cause like that's all that really means.
Right.
Um, you know.
Yeah. And of course, getting more wind tunnel time the further you are down, but more money to work with the higher you are up.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, Alpine's gonna have a good bit of wind tunnel time for next year to try and get their car in shape. Um, but we've got a little bit more of this race weekend to talk about here. One of the other interesting things, similar to the Williams two podium thing, but the F1 official account had tweeted out that this is the first time in 15 years now that we're going to the final round with three drivers in contention to win the title. I saw somewhere else that I believe that was a certain Red Bull driver who had not led the standings throughout the entire season, um, ended up winning a championship there. So hey, you never know. But uh, but yeah, 15 years since we've had three drivers on contention at the end of the season, which is pretty wild.
Oh, and if it was 2010, that was Seb.
Yeah, Seb and I think Seb Fernando and Lewis maybe.
Oh, damn,
I'd
that's
have to
crazy.
yeah, I'd have to go back, but I believe that would be the way that it wrapped out. It
Oh,
was
wow. Okay, gotcha.
Seb
So yeah,
Seb
really
Fernando
close
and
here.
Mark Webber.
Ooh, Mark Webber, gotcha. Oh, and they were
Yes.
they teammates at the time?
Yes, with the Red Bull Racing Renault.
Ooh, gotcha. Okay, damn. Yeah, that's actually crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, it's building up all the excitement for this final race, and we were talking about it, of course, before the episode. But like, I just really hope that it is a great last race weekend without any shenanigans. I just want whoever
Yeah,
wins for it to be like they were just the best racer on the day. It works out, and boom, we can just be happy for whoever wins the championship without. And of course there's always going to be people who are griping and complaining, but I gave up on Max winning the championship like I don't know 8 races ago, and so I it can't hurt me if he loses.
sure.
We'll see. Um, but looking at some final notes here from the race, I wanted to give a shout out to Fernando Alonso for some really good qualifying and solid race finishes. He picked up a few more points for the Aston Martin team on the weekend. Um, as we talked about, the second car is just we can forget about Lance Stroll and what he's doing out there on the grid. But any other notes and talking points for any of the other teams here?
Yeah, a couple things. A couple things I could say. I appreciated seeing, like you were saying, Alonso. But Alonso signs in Gasly up into Q3. Like late season, as many upgrades that are going to be on the car. It's like the fully realized version of like what those cars are going to be. So even though they were like struggling to keep up the higher pace throughout the year, it is still nice to see that like when given a good opportunity, we still have some like really great single lap drivers, in Gasly, Sainz, and Alonso, where maybe they're not given like the best weapon to go racing with all of the time, but given the right scenarios, they can put it up there in the final session of qualifying. So I appreciated seeing that. Where like usually the Alpine team, like the Gasly, I'm not really paying attention, but that's because often they're not like in the like points paying positions. But yeah, I think this qualifying was pretty exciting to see some people that are usually out of the mix, up and competing. The Yuki Tsunoda out in Q1 was tough, I think, for the race qualifying, especially with like the good sessions that he had previously. It was a bit just like, oh man, like just pretty roller coaster esque in that regard. And then the like wild to see Hamilton eliminated again in Q1. It's just like holy, like we are in the upside down world, like totally for real. And it's really tough to see for Lewis. I guess
Yeah.
that's just like the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. But yeah, just some notes there for qualifying, and then what I could say about the sprint race was not much. One of the races where you finish where you start, basically, not much room for overtaking. Which wait, I thought they fixed that for this year. Couple drivers that did make up some positions though were Verstappen, Hadjar, and Bortoleto in the sprint race. So props to Hadjar specifically from me. Great drive from him, the little honey badger.
Yeah. And talking about the qualifying performance at Pierre Gasly, like you said, big shout out to him. 3 weeks in a row, or 3 races in a row that at least for the main qualifying, he's been into Q3. Um, hasn't quite had the same luck in the sprints in the last couple of sprint weekends, but the last 3 races looking really, really, really strong. And like you said, the experience and all upgrades on the car, the comfortability and everything really shines in that single lap pace. We had seen that in previous years with like Hulkenberg and the Haas and some of these other veteran drivers. But yeah, the Lewis going out I think it was P18 in both qualifying sessions was just brutal. It's hard to watch. Like I wanted to see Lewis succeed in Ferrari. This is the last thing that I would have imagined happening is this kind of just all right, let's just move on to next year. It's a different energy from Lewis and it's uh not very fun to see him struggling. Um Yuki, I was really happy to see him get a great qualifying position, solid sprint for the sprint race, and then solid sprint. Unfortunate with the qualifying for the Grand Prix, but still able to make his way up into the points by the end of the race. I was just pretty impressed with him overall on the weekend. I think he's really trying to make that final push to hang on to his seat in Formula One and uh, out qualifying Max in the sprint, being his first time out qualifying him on the season, couldn't have come at a better time. And then being able to kind of be the rear gunner for him, help make sure he gets through to try and chase down Lando, Oscar, and George in the sprint race was some solid teamwork there from Yuki. So um, he's doing what he can to try and hang in there.
Yeah, will it be enough? Who knows? There's a line out the door for the Red Bulls. So
Yeah, it's just it's gonna be it's gonna be a shock and surprise to everyone because I don't think anyone knows which permutation is gonna happen at this point with one race to go. So well, I'm sure here shortly after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix and the end of the season, I imagine they'll give people maybe even the opportunity to do the postseason testing before they officially decide. But yeah, really, really good timing on Yuki having a solid race weekend, picking up, I think it was like 4 points or something like that, which is a strong weekend for at least what he's been able to do across the season in the Red Bull. So,
Sure.
um, yeah, definitely one of his better weekends here. But I think I think that covers the majority of my notes here.
Yeah, same. I mean, like at the end of the season, I mean, really the only thing to focus on in my mind is like the two McLaren drivers versus Max, and then like them all like versus each other. Like, I don't know, like because none of the other teams or storylines or drivers are like factoring in really. You know, like their
Yeah,
kind of
there's
story is done for the year.
the
That's
top three are all locked in for the drivers' championship. There's not really, yeah, a lot more wiggling around.
yeah, and I just see it and like yeah, in my mind, these are just yeah, it's tough to when the color is so bright on the title contenders, all of the other drivers, like it's just kind of gray, and not because like they're bad or boring or
Yeah,
whatever, but it's just, like the only thing at the end of the year is like this showdown, you
yeah,
know?
this is all that matters here. And coming down to the last race weekend, it's going to be a intense qualifying session. I'm going to be locked in on the practice sessions to be like see if I can figure out what some of the drivers' race pace is going to look like. Um, but yeah, coming down to the final race of the season, it's
Crazy.
exciting. That's how that's kind of the best way that the season could go. Um, it's been an extremely competitive year with the McLarens and Max and George sticking himself into the conversation earlier in the year and all, but yeah, coming down to the
Even
final
like throughout
races.
the year, I would say
Yeah,
steadily throughout the year, I think George was just in the conversation, unfortunately.
absolutely. He was always putting himself in a position to pick up any extra points he could.
Usually
And
good points though. I mean,
yeah,
his average was probably 8 points. His average was probably 8 or 10 points.
yeah, I'd be curious what his like average finishing position would be across the. I would imagine it's probably like a fifth or sixth like on
That'd
average
be my
across the
feeling,
year, which
yeah.
would be pretty solid. And I mean fourth in the championship, so overall doing a nice job. Um, but yeah, the spotlight is definitely on the top three here going into Abu Dhabi, and we've got a couple days here before the race weekend kicks off for the final time of 2025.
I can't wait. I think it's been a pretty good year. Obviously competitive right down to the wire. And yeah, as much as like your nerves want it to have been settled already, like it's such a gift to go like to the final race. You get a full season of like of good competition. I won't say it's been like good racing the whole time because some of the tracks are pretty like mute at this
Yeah,
point, I think. But yeah, I think it's been pretty fun, and I will definitely be looking forward to the finale at Abu Dhabi. The podium for the 2025 Qatar Grand Prix, in case you missed it, is P1 Max Verstappen, P2 Oscar Piastri, and then P3 a Carlos Sainz, an ecstatic, elated Carlos Sainz in P3.
yeah, and 12-point gap from Lando to Max in the championship, and then 4 more points down to Oscar. So, um, yeah, still plenty to play for here in the last race of the season, and we'll catch up with you after it next week. But before we wrap out, we do have the cool down lap coming for you here. We've got flavor of the week this week. Justin, why don't you kick it off?
Well, my A food here for the week was just like leftovers. We've had a holiday meal for a whole bunch of meals. You know what I'm saying? But that's like kind of the fun of it. You get to have all the different like permutations. You can get you can do like a gobbler bowl. You can do like turkey or chicken sandwiches. Whatever you want to do. So yeah, I think it's fun for like post holiday meals. You get to change it up, so that's pretty fun. My music here for the week, I've been, well, I had an idea where for my massage music, I think it'd be fun if I could like find some like themes to them. And so I'm just starting very simple. I found a nice like winter themed an hour long like tune that I can play during my massages.
Nice.
It's like a compilation of songs from The Witcher 3, and so it like uses some more I don't know what adjectives describe winter, but you get it. So it's like a winter theme song for massage. And then my visual medium here for the week, bro. I was like, you know what? We're just going just all classics, all 5 out of 5s, no whammies at all. So we did The Godfather, Goodfellas, and Casablanca like over the last week or so.
Oh man,
The Godfather, it was the first time I'd seen it,
I was gonna
and
say
that was really
I haven't seen
you,
it.
okay, guy. Hey, I mean, no worries. I feel like it's one. I mean, it's like a 3 hour runtime. That's like a lot to ask, if you're not like like really really into it. But yeah, I thought The Godfather was amazing. I understand why it's a 5 out of 5. Same with Goodfellas and Casablanca. This is my second time watching it, like in the last year or so. It hit me even harder the second time. I was like, yes, that is a great movie. So yeah, in a world where I've seen some like I've watched some movies. We can say that I was ready for just like, okay, I need certified bangers. So that's what we did for my flavor of the week.
Nice. I was gonna ask you, so I'll kind of dive into mine, but before I do the movies, I will have to check some of the. I feel like I've seen Goodfellas. I don't remember if I've seen it all the way like straight through or if I like picked it up on TV at some point or
Sure.
whatnot. So I know I've seen at least parts of it, but we'll have to check those out. And Godfather is it's one of those that it was like no one ever was like, yo, let's watch The Godfather. So I just never watched it.
Right.
It was like, oh, okay. And but if it is a certified 5 out of 5, it'll have to go onto my list. Um, but my food was also going to be holiday Thanksgiving food, all the turkey, and I made some great mashed potatoes to take with us to my mom's house. I put a lot of chopped up fresh garlic into it, along with like all the butter and cream and everything. My sister thought that the garlic mashed potatoes were a bit spicy. So that was kind of amusing because I was like, it's just garlic, but all right. um, but I was gonna ask, do you have a favorite Thanksgiving food?
Bread
Um,
stuffing.
bread stuffing. Okay. I was
Easy.
and until you mentioned the gobbler bowl, I was gonna say the homemade gobbler is a solid post Thanksgiving leftover meal that you can throw together. The only
Oh yeah,
part
it's like it's like a fat boy.
the cranberry on it is the only part that I won't go that far, but I mean good turkey gravy, mashed potatoes, and everything. So I was loving it this past week. But my music and my visual medium both tie together. Colleen was very excited that the second Wicked movie came out for the second half of the show. And so we went to see that. The music was solid. It's musicals are like not my uh, top of my list in terms of my favorite genres, but it was pretty well done. I also found other little ways to kind of entertain myself throughout the movie. There were a number of times where Elphaba, the Green Witch, like they're doing one of those shots where you're following a character and they're like looking around, like trying to find the person, and then it pans and the person's like right behind them, and I just kept going to Colleen and going, I'm Batman. Because
Okay.
just, uh, it was very amusing to just like I knew exactly what was going to happen with those shots and everything. I'm sure
Sure.
most people did, but that was the first thing that popped into my mind is just Batman appearing behind whatever person on a roof of the police station or whatever.
Sure.
But yeah, overall, really, really solid. Cinematically, like it was a good movie overall. Some of the shots are just pretty cool. There's um, some really neat shots where they have all the fields of flowers that are in the perfect rows of each color and everything like that.
Okay.
Just running along the yellow brick road, and you get to see some of those overviews and some pretty good cinematography in that aspect. And then the singing was just like they're extremely talented singers. Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, I think it is. But phenomenal singing and all. Even if the genre is not quite my perfect one, it was still a good movie, musical to go check out.
I contend anybody saying that a film that they played little Batman games during, where they were just like waiting for the next opportunity to make a Batman joke, I contend that that movie was a good, like, there's no way it's a good movie if you're waiting to play like little games.
It
You feel
I
me?
wasn't I wasn't like it's just that it's not my like it just happened multiple times throughout the
Okay.
movie, and
Okay.
each time the first thought into my mind was that's what Batman does. And it
Okay.
wasn't necessarily a game just to entertain myself. I was watching and entertained throughout the movie, but
Okay.
uh like I said, it's still not my top genre, so
Right. Right.
I've
Hey,
uh
I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, brother. All good.
yeah, you're throwing me under the bus. When Colleen listens to this, she's gonna be like, "You hated it."
Yo, you can like it. I'll just make it explicitly obvious what I think about it. That's all.
have uh have you watched either one yet?
No, 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 no,
Didn't
no,
think so.
no, no.
No musicals?
If I said no musicals, it's a lie because I think very fondly of there's a movie called Across the Universe that's like a
Okay,
bunch of Beatles songs. So it's like I love that movie. But I'm like you,
gotcha.
I think it's got to be like the right fit. Like the other musical that I really like, Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber from
Hmm.
Fleet Street. But it's like
Yeah,
I don't think you could give me every musical and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, Ryan Gosling and
that's
La
fair.
La Land, baby." You know?
Yeah. No, I'm on board with that. This was the story's interesting. I There was a lot that I was not aware of in terms of like how exactly it tied into the Wizard of Oz. I thought it
Right.
was more of a uh prelude to the Wizard of Oz, I
Okay.
guess, versus like in the middle of the second half of the movie, the entire Wizard of Oz like saga happens in the middle of this film.
Okay.
Which I didn't realize that they all happened at the same time. So that was kind of cool to see and tie them together. Like it's just a portion of the movie is just from the witch's perspective versus following Dorothy and the lion and the scarecrow and Tin Man and all. But
Right.
you
Okay. That's
see
interesting.
them and they interact kind of throughout the second movie here for Wicked. So spoiler
Really? Oh,
alert.
okay. That's cool.
Yeah, so it was I wasn't sure exactly how it tied in until I watched. So that was another kind of bonus for watching it. But yeah, I don't think I spoiled anything for you because I doubt you'll be watching it anytime soon.
I just pulled it up on Netflix. Didn't you see? I've got it loaded here,
Ready to go.
ready to go.
But yeah, that is my flavor of the week for this week, and that does bring us to the end of this week's episodes, ladies and gentlemen. So we appreciate you all for listening along with us.
Thank you for joining. Thank you for tuning in. We have one more Formula One race, the Abu Dhabi finale. That means there'll be a Tired Boys podcast episode after the Abu Dhabi finale. And then most likely there'll be one final 2025 year-end wrap
Yep.
after that one. So a couple more episodes here of the Tired Boys podcast for 2025. We will see you after Abu Dhabi. Peace out, everyone.
See ya.